Hi guys, and welcome to Harbor.Church. My name is Caitlin, and this is my daughter Abigail. Can you say hi?
Hi.
We have been members of Harbor.Church for about a year now. We love this church. It's home to us. So if you're new, we want to say a special welcome and thanks for joining us. If you're with us online, click on the link in the caption. If you're with us in person, go grab your Connect card and check off New to Harbor.Church. Either way, we just want to make sure we can send you a special gift as our way of saying thanks for joining us. Now get ready and enjoy the service. Have a great day. God bless.
Good morning, Harbor Church. What's up, guys? I'm so glad that you're with us. Thank you for being here. I am pumped about today. I'm so excited that we get to, I'm always excited we get to have church, but today I've been looking forward to this for a really long time. We are finally back inside the house of God, getting a chance to worship together. Man, I've been missing that so much. Now, we've been doing church online, and I love that technology allows us to do that, especially when the quarantine was really in full effect. And then we've been doing it in the parking lot and having services outside, and that's been great. But there's nothing quite like being able to gather together in God's house to kind of celebrate Him. And the worship that we've been doing this morning, how powerful that has been, and just getting a chance to, to come together. The Bible says to be called out in an assembly together. It does something for us. It energizes us. And I'm excited that we get to do that and that we get to kick off a brand new series. As you may have noticed by the intro video, we're kicking off a follow-up to last summer's series called Heroes. We went through the book of Judges and we looked at all these different heroes and we equate them to a superhero, comic book hero mostly. And I thought, if we're going to talk about the good guys, then we got to talk about the bad guys. And here's the thing, in most of the Bible stories, nobody likes to talk about the bad guys unless it's to be like, yeah, I'm not the bad guy. But I think we can learn from the bad guys. Nobody here is like volunteering to be the bad guy. That's fine. But I don't know if you have a favorite bad guy. I've been studying bad guys, both in the Bible and then even some from movies and comic books. I love to correlate things, especially if it helps you remember. But I think today's bad guy, we're going to start off with an easy one from the Bible. A very easy one, very traditionally known one, but I think as this series progresses, we're going to find some that maybe you've never even heard of before and talk about them. Next week, the lady we're going to talk about is so exciting. But before we get to all that, I know all the rest of the series. Today, we're kicking it off with a mega bad guy, and the best one I could relate him to from comic books and movies is the bad guy known as the Juggernaut. Now, those of you that aren't comic book nerds and you don't care about movies and you've never watched the X-Men or anything like that, don't worry about it. This is not a series. This is not where you have to know comic book stuff. But today's bad guy, I kind of consider this bad guy from the Bible to be closest to the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut, this dude is 9'5" tall. The comic book says he weighs 1,900 pounds, which is insane. But he's known for being incredibly strong. Incredibly strong. He relies on his brute strength and his physical ability. I love that he wears a helmet that's to protect his head from his stepbrother, Charles Xavier, for messing with his mind. I thought that was kind of appropriate for the guy we're going to be talking about from the Bible today. But if you don't know the Juggernaut, this guy is mostly just relies all on his muscles and his experience in fighting. And I thought this is a good bad guy to correlate to today's bad guy. So today we're going to be in the book of 1 Samuel. We're going to be in 1 Samuel. Samuel was a prophet right towards the end of the time where the children of Israel stopped trusting in God's plan, and what they wanted was kings. They wanted to have a king over them instead of having God over them. And so they asked the prophet Samuel to give them a king. Samuel says, if that's what you want, that's not going to work out for you, but that's fine. And so they get a guy named Saul. And Saul is supposed to be this king warrior. Saul was the biggest guy in the entire nation of Israel. That's why they elected him, because he was big and strong. But today, Saul is not our bad guy. The more famous bad guy from the book of Samuel, even though Saul ends up being a bad guy and David ends up being the good guy, David is mostly known for taking down a bad guy. And if you've heard this story, and many of you have, if you've heard this story before, it's called David and Goliath. So I'm taking today's juggernaut and comparing him to a real person from the Bible known as Goliath. Goliath was estimated to be around 9 feet, 9 inches tall. And I don't know how much he weighed, but bro, he carried big weapons, had big armor. The guy was monstrous, and he's always known as the bad guy. And today we still have the phrase, several thousand years later, David versus Goliath. It's always meant a little guy versus a powerhouse of a guy. I want to read you the story, if I might. Can somebody pass me that water really quick? It's going to be found in 1 Samuel. Thank you very much. 1 Samuel chapter 17. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse number 3 is where we first really learn about Goliath. It says this: so the Philistines, that's the tribe, that's the nation that Goliath was from. The Philistines and the Israelites, they faced off against each other on opposing hills. So their two armies are out there. There's a valley between them. Verse number 4, Goliath, a Philistine champion from Gath, came out from the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. He was over 9 feet tall. He wore a bronze helmet, and his bronze coat of mail weighed 125 pounds. That's just some of his armor. It says he also wore bronze leg armor, and he carried a bronze javelin on his shoulder. The shaft of his spear was heavy and as thick as a weaver's beam. I mean, this dude had to have a huge hand to grab this spear that he walked around with. It says that it was tipped with an iron spearhead that weighed 15 pounds. His armor bearer walked ahead of him carrying a shield. He had a dude that was responsible just for the shield. I wouldn't want to be that guy, but whatever. This is the part that kind of lets us know a little bit about him. Verse number 8, it says, Goliath stood and shouted a taunt across to the Israelites. Why are you all coming out to fight? He called. I'm the Philistine champion. You're just servants of Saul. And what he's basically saying is, I'm the champion that Philistine has. You guys aren't the champion from Israel. You're just little peons underneath Saul. He says, why are you guys even out here? Choose one man to come down here and fight me. If that guy kills me, then we'll be your slaves. But if I kill him, you guys have to be our slaves. I defy the armies of Israel today. And what he's doing is he's taunting them in a way that says, I believe that me and my gods are stronger than you and your one God. And he says he defies the armies. This is verse number 10. Send me a man who will fight me. And then verse 11 lets us know about their new king Saul, what his heart was really like. It says, when Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were terrified and deeply shaken. You guys heard the term shaking in your boots. This is where we get some of that. These guys are literally just shaking with fear. You skip a couple verses down in verse number 16, it says, for 40 days, every morning and every evening, the Philistine champion Goliath strutted in front of the Israelite army, making that same taunt. I defy you, I defy you. They had to hear that every day, morning and evening. In verse number 26, when David, the hero of the story, shows up, David finally shows up, and he's not even supposed to be in the army. He's just a little kid watching sheep, but he shows up, and he hears it. And verse number 26, it says, David asked the soldiers standing nearby, what will a man get for killing this loudmouth, this Philistine, and ending his defiance of Israel? Who is this pagan Philistine anyway? Who is this guy who doesn't even understand how great our God is? Who is he anyways that he's allowed to defy the armies of the living God? Because David asked this question and everybody else is afraid and David clearly isn't afraid, they actually take David and they put him before the king and they're like, little kid here, this guy, he's got some questions for you. Go on, home slice, say something. And David's like, why is nobody killing Goliath? 40 days, nobody's put this loudmouth in his place. So Saul's like, hey, if you think you can do it. And basically, you have to read the story for yourself. I'm not focusing on David today. I want to focus on Goliath. So here's the end of the Goliath story. David decides, I'm not going to take Saul's armor. I'm not going to go like a normal soldier. God has helped me get this far. I'm going to trust God. So David goes out in the battlefield with the tools that he had. He was a shepherd, so he had a staff, and he had a sling that throws rocks. And it says Goliath, this is verse number 41. If you've never heard the story before, listen to this part. It gets pretty cool. Goliath walked out towards David. Remember, Goliath, 9 feet, 9 inches tall. David was probably around 5 feet tall. So this guy's almost double the height of this poor little kid. And it says, he walks out to David with his shield bearer ahead of him, and it says, sneering in contempt at his ruddy-faced boy, at David. He goes, am I a dog, he roared at David, that you come at me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Come over here and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals, Goliath yelled. And David replied to the Philistine, hey, you come at me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies and the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. I gotta imagine everybody's just standing there like, wow, kid's got guts. this boy's brave. He's like, not only gonna kill you, I'm gonna cut your head off. And he says, I'm gonna do this because God's gonna give me this victory. And then he says, and I'll give the dead bodies of your men. So I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill all those loudmouths behind you. Because you guys have faced off against somebody run their mouth. They've usually got a posse behind them. They're like, ooh, ooh, oh yeah. And like every time Goliath's like, yeah, you suck. You're just a little kid. What am I? I'm gonna like throw your body to the birds. And they're all like, oh, you get him, Goliath. And then David's standing there, just a kid against an entire army, and he goes, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to chop your head off. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill all y'all. And I'm sitting there like, they're probably laughing, but then they're like, crap, man, this kid's brave. And so he says that. He goes, I'm going to do all this. And he goes, I'm going to give the dead bodies of your men to the birds and the wild animals. And the whole world will know that there's a God in Israel. And it's cool that we're still talking about this story thousands and thousands of years later. And it says, everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescues his people, not with a spear or a sword. This is the Lord's battle, and he will give you to us. So as Goliath moved closer to attack David, David quickly ran out to meet him. Verse number 49, reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling. And you can just see this kid running out against a giant. He whips his sling up. It says he hit the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sank in. I mean, it had some velocity to it. The giant, having the stone hit him right there, it says Goliath stumbled and fell face down on the ground, almost like he's bowing. It's the last move that Goliath ever makes. It says David triumphed over the Philistine with only a sling and a stone, for he had no sword. Then David ran over, pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath. David used Goliath's sword to kill him and to cut off his head. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they turned and ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah gave a great shout of triumph, and they rushed after the Philistines, chasing them as far as Gath and the gates of Ekron. The bodies of the dead and wounded Philistines were strewn all along the road from Shaaraim as far as Gath and Ekron. Then the Israelite army returned and plundered the deserted Philistine camp. David took the Philistine's head to Jerusalem, but he stored the man's armor in his own tent. And David actually has the sword of Goliath for most of the rest of his career. So that's the story of David and Goliath. If we were doing this traditionally, we would be like, let's talk about David. Let's talk about how we can be David. I can't tell you how many books I've read or how many sermons I've heard preached where it's like, let's talk about taking down our giants. Let's talk about facing our biggest fears. And that's normally what you get out of this story, because this story is so powerful when a little guy takes on this massive big guy. And what we can learn from when God calls us to face giants in our own life and struggles in our own life, and the things that scare us, the things that weigh us down, the things that we think there's no way we could ever have victory over them. God says, if you have me in your life, you will have victory in it. You guys are out of practice. I feel like that was a good point. This is the normal story of David and Goliath. David is our hero. We want to be like David. But let's stop for a second. We're talking about villains today. Why is Goliath the bad guy? Because Goliath's bigger. He's the biggest. He's the biggest. He's the strongest. Clearly that makes him bad. No, that's not why he's the bad guy. Just because he's bigger doesn't make him bad. Well, he's stronger, a lot more muscles. Well, it doesn't make him bad. Well, he has more experience than David. He's a veteran soldier. He's a champion. This guy has killed a lot of people. David's never been in a battle before. That doesn't make him bad either. Well, it's because, Pastor, I get this. It's because he's Philistine that he's bad. Not really. The Philistines are the bad guys in this story. I get that. But Goliath had no say over what nation he was born into, what nationality he was. He has no say over that. He can't help it that he's older or bigger. He didn't have any say over his genetics. That's not the reason he's the bad guy. Not everybody that's big is bad. There are big guys and guys that do big things, and just because he looks this way, that's not why he's bad. There's a lot of Canaanites, there's a lot of stories of people who weren't Israelite that God loved and used. Heck, David's own grandmother, Ruth, was a Moabite. This is not a story about if you're not Israelite, you're bad. That's not why Goliath is bad. Goliath is bad because he defies God instead of worships God. And what he does in his life is he depends more on himself. So if we're going to learn from the bad guys of the Bible, let's not today be, I'm David today. Let's not do that today. How about right now, let's go, how can I not be Goliath? Because as much as we love to play the victim, as much as we love to be, I'm little old David and everybody beats me up and everything is a giant. Everything about my life is so tough. I just need a David story. So listen, I'm not saying that's not powerful, but how about we not play that card today? How about we not say that I'm always the little guy getting beat up? How about sometimes we have to admit that we might be the bad guy? Sometimes we, in our own arrogance, in our own pride, in our own failure to acknowledge the God of the universe, we act more like Goliath than we act like David. If you want to know how to see this in yourself, let's just look at Goliath a little bit. Goliath, he's clearly showing up in the entire story of him, the entire attitude of Goliath is somebody who is trusting himself because he was bigger, because he was stronger, because he had better weapons. I love that it tells us all the details. Goliath's sword, Goliath's spear, Goliath's shield, Goliath's armor. The very thing he trusted was the thing that was used to cut his head off. I love that the thing that he put the most confidence in, look how boss I am. He probably's looking at his sword. He's got all these notches on it. You know how many men I've killed with this sword alone? I'm going to whoop this kid's butt. I'm going to destroy him in front of everybody. It's the things that he trusted most are the things that were actually used to take him down. And so here's a point that you can mark away. You can either trust yourself or you can trust God, but you can't do both. You can't say I trust God, but then go around going, here's what I'm going to do, and here's how I'm going to do it, and this is because I'm so smart, because I'm so strong, because I've got this and I've got that, I can do it. And you're sitting there going, well, I trust God, but I'm also pretty smart. I've also got it. You're either putting your faith in yourself, or you're putting your faith in God. Now, you might say you're putting your faith in God, but how are you actually living? You can't really trust both. You can trust one, and you can say that you trust the other. But if you're going to trust God, then it has nothing to do with how smart you are. It has nothing to do with how good you are. It has nothing to do, and we like to hear this message in reverse. I can never be so bad that God won't love me. I can never do something so vile that God won't forgive me. And we love that about God, but we rarely apply it in reverse. You are not so good that you don't need God. For some of you, it might be a talent that you have. God has given you a brain, a musical ability, a sports ability. Maybe you're a great salesman. You have some God-given talent, and so you trust that for why you have value or how you're going to make your money or how you're going to get friends. You're not really trusting God. You're trusting yourself. You forget that God's the one that gave it to you. The reason that Goliath was so big and so strong and was still alive at this point in time was because God had allowed it. He didn't acknowledge that. He just put it all on himself, how good he is. And we often love to trust ourselves. This is what 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse number 5 says. Not that we are sufficient in ourselves to claim anything as coming from us, but our sufficiency is from God. How many of us live our lives as if though our sufficiency is from God? Most of us, we claim it for ourselves. The reason I have the house that I have, the family that I have, is because I've struggled through it. I have pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I have worked for it. And listen, I'm not condemning that. I hope you work hard. I hope you work diligent. I hope because if God has given you a job or a family or a responsibility, you do your best because that's what honors him, is that you don't take it for granted. I'm not talking about not taking it for granted. I'm talking about your ego saying that you got it for you. It's very easy to see in how you treat people, what you think about your position position at work, what you do with your money. Some of you won't tithe because you think you earned it. You don't realize that 100% of it came from God. And so giving back to God, even a small part, isn't some big generous thing on your half. It's just you going, I trust that God gave me all of it and that he can do more with it than I can do. Same thing goes for your time. You are not the great master of your time. If you realize that every second your heart is beating, that your lungs are drawing breath is because God is gracious and merciful, then all of a sudden you don't act like it's an inconvenience on you to spend time talking to the Creator, to spend time serving him, to going out of your way to love your neighbor. You look at it as God is graciously giving me more time, and so I will use some of that to bless this person. I will use some of that over here, and I will give it back to God because it's all his anyways. If you don't have that attitude, it's probably because you're trusting yourself instead of trusting God. You can only do one of those. You pick. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do everything, end of the sentence. That's it. I love getting that tattoo. That's it. I can do anything. Right? That's the end of the verse. I can do it all. Does that not sound like the American dream? I got it. I've done it. It's all me. All me. I can do everything. There's a rest of it. Through Christ who gives me strength. We don't like this part. We love to tell everybody, look what I did. Look what I can do. Look what I can do. I can do everything. That's his Goliath. Goliath says, I can do everything. End of sentence. The person who trusts God says, I can do anything. We sang a song. We said, not afraid. It says, I'll stand before the giant declaring victory. Why? Because my God will make a way. I was jumping out of my seat when we were worshiping singing that. My God will make a way. Not I'll make a way. My God will make a way. That's what it means. I can do everything through the God who supplies this. I think we get it wrong so often. And it drives me nuts because people are like, oh, I love God, but I won't go back to his house and worship. I love God, but I won't give him any of my money. I love God, but I won't forgive my neighbor. I love God, but I won't trust him with my addiction. I love God, but I won't actually read his word. You're doing it wrong. I was driving down the road. I'm not lying. It was none of you guys because it was an out-of-state, it was a tourist. And I saw them coming towards me, and I could not figure out what was on top of their car. And it was like this like weird shaped, colorful thing like flapping. As it got closer, I realized that it was their beach umbrella. And they had loaded it backwards on the top of their car, so it was catching wind like a parachute. And they're driving, it's like, I don't know if this guy like feels his car because this thing was like, what it looked like was those dinosaurs from Jurassic Park that are all sweet, and then they have that big thing that's like spans out and they spit venom. And I was like, what the heck is on that car? And it's this umbrella fighting the wind as this guy's driving and stopping. And I'm like, bro, you're doing it wrong. I was like, whatever. He's probably from New York. I'm sorry if you're from New York. And it's absurd when you can see it. How easily can you see it in other people's lives? You're doing it wrong. Turn it around. Just turn it around. But we never see it in our own lives, do we? How much we trust ourselves. We trust what we can do. We go through our whole lives barely acknowledging God. We ask God for a favor when we're in trouble, but we don't actually serve and trust him all the rest of the time. I don't have any more time to go on that, but I hope you get that point. Let's look at something else. Verse number 16 says, for 40 days, this is back to verse number 16 in 1 Samuel, for 40 days, every morning and every evening, the Philistine champion strutted in front of the Israelite army. He didn't just do it once. He did it twice a day for 40 days. Home Slice got away with mocking God 80 times. I mean, if God was real, then God would punish him on the very first time, right? That's how we know God doesn't exist. He mocked God and God didn't strike him down. The Bible says that there's fun in sin for a season. You can have some fun for a little while. Some of you all are doing some stupid stuff and you're like, it hasn't bit me in the butt yet, so I must be good. I am so guilty of this. I do something, I'm like, I'm okay. I must be allowed to do it. No, you're just an idiot who's taking advantage of God's very patient grace and mercy on our lives. Here's the second point. So if you want to know that if you're leaning into being more Goliath, like just because you're getting away with it doesn't mean you'll get away with it. There's a lot of stuff that we do that we're like, oh, I'm getting away with it. Just because it's happening right now doesn't mean the consequences for your sin aren't going to come bite you in the butt soon. Goliath for 80 times Goliath is like, I mock you and I mock your God. And if he was real, he would have stopped me around, 50. On that 40th day, he said it to the person who put more faith in God than he put in himself. Now the rest of those Israelites are like, I'm not strong enough to beat Goliath. David showed up and goes, I'm not strong enough to beat Goliath, but I serve a God who can squash him like a bug. Homeside's got to shut his mouth. And so David shows up and goes, I'll shut that guy's mouth. That pagan Philistine, that's the last time he's saying that. We act like, I'm getting away with it, so that must mean I'm going to get away with it. And that is not true. And some of you need to hear me. I'm not saying this out of pointing my finger at you. I'm saying this out of love. Some of you are doing some things that you know is not God's best for you, and you think God's somehow forgotten about you, or you snuck it under the radar, or you're not going to pay for it, but you are. The things you're watching, the things you're doing, the people that you're sleeping with, the stuff that you're putting in your body, the attitude that you have, the hatred that you've got towards somebody, the gossip that you're spelling, the manipulation that you have, the cheating you're doing at work, these things that you know are not God's best for you. You might be getting away with it right now, but you're not going to get away with it. This is what the Bible tells us in Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 through 8. It says, don't be misled, means don't be fooled. Don't fool yourself. You cannot mock the justice of God. Woo! This is something I had to hear. I read this like, this verse is all over me. You will always harvest what you plant. You will always reap what you sow. Some of you are sowing seeds of discord, lies. Some of you are bitter at somebody. Some of you are holding on to hate. Some of you are valuing yourself more than other people. You're going to reap that. Those who live only to satisfy their own sinful nature. Some of you are going to reap some very unpleasant things in your family. Parents, you're sowing some stuff into your children's life right now that you don't think is going to bite you back, but it is. When they get older, you're going to reap that. You're going to reap it. Some of you in your marriages, you're sowing some selfishness, some greed, some resentment, and you're going to reap it. It says, those of you that live to satisfy their sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. I'm not telling you this because I'm better than you. I'm telling you this because this is so true. It's true for all of us. I do not want decay and death. Look at the world around you. It's decay and death, and it's no wonder because they're reaping what they've sowed. Don't be that. Those who live to please the Spirit will reap, will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. If you think, well, I'm not guilty of anything major, you got to remember what Romans 6:23 says. Romans 6:23 says that for the wages of sin is death. The reaping of sin will be death. Every single one of us, it also tells us in chapter 3 that all have sinned, that every single one of us have done something that is sinful. Every single one of us have done something that's less than God's best. So every single one of us have sowed sin, and the consequences for that sin is death. And the only solution for what we've sowed is that Jesus Christ gives us eternal life. That's the solution. That's what the whole Bible is about. That's even what the story of David is about. It's about a God who loves us enough to rescue us from things that we couldn't rescue ourselves from. Let's look at verses 41 through 43. Goliath walked out towards David. This is after David showed up on the battlefield. Goliath walked out towards David with his shield bearer ahead of him. Verse number 42, it says, sneering in contempt at this ruddy-faced boy. Am I a dog, he roared at David, that you've come to me with a stick? And he cursed David by the names of his gods. Goliath sees this kid, and because Goliath valued himself so much, he told everybody, I'm the Philistine champion. Have you seen my title belt? Do you know how good I am? You know my record? I'm 93-0. You know how many people I've killed? You know how good I am? You know how great I am? And then he sees David, and David's the only one that wants to face off against him. And what he wanted is he wanted another big, strong dude with a whole bunch of wins on his belt. He wanted to beat somebody that he thought would make him look better. If beating David wasn't going to make him look good, he wanted somebody who was going to make him look good. So he's offended. It says he sneered. Bring that back up. He sneered at David in verse number 42. It says that this sneering and contempt, he's mad. He's offended. And if you want to know how you might be more like Goliath than David, you need to understand this. If you're easily offended, you'll be easily defeated. The people that are easily offended, the ones that go, I'm better than this, I deserve better than this, I can't believe somebody would do this to me. This was the end of him. Because he didn't take his opponent serious, he was offended at the lowest class of an opponent because he thought that he deserved more. He thought he was better. He was already on the path to defeat. So if you're like him, just check yourself. If you're easily offended, you'll be easily defeated. There's something that Satan loves to exploit in us, and it's our ego. Man, it's quiet in here. There's something that Satan loves to make obvious that it's obvious for him to make use of in our lives, is that we are annoyed and offended at everything. Our culture loves to call out how many things, like, you've offended me. Everything you say offends me. Everything you do offends me. Get used to it. If you're easily offended, just understand that that's all it takes to distract you. If you're going into battle, your ego shouldn't be what you're worried about. Your offense and your defense is what you worry about. Your fragile ego isn't what you call to. God says that we're in a war against principalities and powers, that we have a battle that we're waging every single day, where we need to put the armor of God on, where we need to take it serious. There are things coming after you and after your family, serious forces that you have to go and do battle against every day. And some of you aren't even getting on the battlefield because your feelings are hurt. Sometimes we worry more about what somebody typed as a comment under a picture that we posted than we worry about, is God using me to be a light in a very dark workplace or in a very broken family? Somebody doesn't like me. Somebody didn't appreciate the thing I did. Somebody didn't invite me to a party. Somebody did this, and I can't believe that. We are offended all the time. Our feelings are hurt all the time. Heck, it's half of the stuff that I have to deal with is somebody hurt somebody else's feelings. Somebody is mad about something. Can you just understand that part of living this life will be that people won't like you and won't like what you do? You're never going to make everybody happy all the time. That shouldn't be earth-shattering. That shouldn't knock you off of your mission. That shouldn't distract you from what it is that God's called you to do. So many people that put on the jersey that say, I'm representing God, I'm on his army, put themselves in timeout and go sit down on the bench and go, well, the other team doesn't like me. Somebody didn't pat me on the back today. What? How easy it must be for our adversary to know, I've got her. Man, I got him. This is what Proverbs 25:28. One time I lost my temper. I might have shared this story with you. I slammed a door and the glass broke, and my dad was like, what is your problem, kid? And he made me, as a punishment, write out Proverbs 25:28 and Proverbs 16:32. He also made me write Ecclesiastes 10:10 100 times. And to a kid that's like, I think I was like second grade or something, that felt like 20 years of a punishment. But it says in Proverbs 25:28, a person without self-control is like a city that has no walls. It's broken down and it's defenseless. If you're the kind of person who's easily offended, if you're the person whose emotions control what they do, you're controlled by your emotions, and instead of controlled by the Spirit of God, you're given to your fear, you're given to your anxiety, you're given to your anger, you're given to whatever it is, then you're like a city without defense. You are literally walking around just waiting for Satan to come and lob more grenades because you've got nothing to stand up. Your emotions pull you through just a whirlwind of back and forth. If you are not guarded with self-control, remember when it says, I don't have this verse up for you, but it says that God says that he's not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but one of power and love and self-control. It's self-control that helps us stand up against it. Proverbs 16:32 says, whoever's slow to anger, whoever has self-control, they're better than the mighty. Whoever rules their spirit than somebody that can take an entire city. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Goliath, who is mighty. David could control his emotions. Goliath couldn't. And David was stronger than the mighty. It's more important. Did I give you the wrong verse on that? I might have. I think I read it from a different version. It's all right. Whoever's slow to anger is better than mighty. Whoever rules his spirit than he who takes a city. Let's move on. Verse number 44, right after that. It says, Goliath looks at David and he goes, come over here. I'm going to give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals, Goliath yells. They haven't even had their first battle. They haven't swung swords. They haven't done anything yet. And Goliath is already claiming the victory. Goliath assumed something that wasn't true. Goliath told everybody, I'm going to kill this kid real quick. Battle's over. There was a 30 for 30 on ESPN where Tyson goes and fights Buster Douglas. The odds were 42-1 that Tyson would smoke him. Tyson loses that match, and everybody told Buster Douglas that he didn't stand a chance. 42-1 odds. And every interview they showed of Tyson's like, yeah, I'm not even worried about him. It's just a warm-up match to get to Holyfield. They assumed he was going to knock him out in the first round. His corner didn't even bring the right medical equipment to help him throughout the rounds, because after the first round, Buster Douglas was whooping up on Tyson, and Tyson started to swell up, and they didn't have the right compresses, the stuff to deal with it, because they didn't anticipate it. They were so cocky. And this is the same thing for Goliath, and here's what I've noticed about some of us. We claim victory before we've even fought the battle, so do not claim a victory for a battle that you haven't fought. We like to assume that we got it. There's some of us that go, I don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to fall prey to that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cheat on that person. I'm not going to steal that money. I'm not going to do this thing. I'm not going to have this. We just assume that we are above temptation. And we claim a victory for something that hasn't happened yet. We claim, oh, no, I would never do that. And we assume, because we think we're so good, and this once again goes back to who we trust, that we've got this. I think Satan loves to look at the men and women who have lowered their defenses because they're like, I'm not going to lose. If you claim a victory for a battle that you haven't even fought, do you realize how much power you're giving to your enemy? The Bible says that Satan's a roaring lion, walking around seeking whom he may devour. Now, we have a faith in God, who is the Lion of Judah, who is not afraid and intimidated by Satan, but that doesn't mean that we go out in our own power and claim victory in our own power. Because here's what you might be thinking. Well, Goliath says he's going to win. In the very next verse, David says he's going to win. David says, yeah, well, you're going to kill me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you and all your friends, as we already talked about. But David adds on the part here. He says, I'm going to do it through the God of Israel, through the Lord of heaven's armies. That's who's going to do this. And everybody will know in verse number 46 that there is a God in Israel. Everybody will know that there's a God in Israel. He doesn't say, everybody will know David kicked some butt today. That's how we like to declare victory. That's what Goliath did. I'm going to whoop up on this guy in all of my awesomeness. And David says, I'm going to kill you because God's going to give me the victory. If you're going to claim a victory, it better be through the power of God and not through yourself. You and I love to claim a victory for a battle we haven't even fought on our own power. When we sang that song, God will make a way, so I'm not afraid. It's not, I'll make a way. It's God's got this. I will punish the world for its evil and the wicked for their sin. I will crush the arrogance. I will crush the arrogance of the proud and humble the pride of the mighty. What this looks like is we put so much in ourselves, and God says, I'm going to make sure that if that's the way you live your life, Goliath, that's the way you're going to meet your end. Romans 12:3, the second half says this, don't think you're better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourself. Check yourself. Be honest, measuring yourself not by all the accomplishments you have, but by the faith that God's given you. You measure by God and your faith in God. You don't measure against yourself. Here's the point. Goliath could not see a victory, a scenario where he wasn't victorious. He couldn't imagine a scenario where him, the giant, with all of the muscles and all of the armor and all of the experience and all of the strength, didn't come out on top. So I want to leave you with this. If you don't believe God is the difference maker, you'll never see the difference God can make. If you do not believe that in this battle, the difference between winning and losing is not muscles and weakness, it's not height and shortness, it's not experience and being a rookie at battle, that's not the difference. If you don't believe that in every situation that you're in, that God is the difference, if you don't believe that everything you're facing, God is the difference, then you're not going to see the difference that God can make. Goliath couldn't envision a world where he wasn't going to be the winner, and so he never got to see that world because he was face down with his head getting chopped off. If you take God out of the equation, you're going to miss out on all that God can do. There's some of you that have no ability to see a victory in an area of your life that has been constant defeat. I know we're talking about Goliath who only saw victory, but I'm switching the script for a second. Some of you can't imagine a scenario where God helps you get over an addiction. Some of you can't imagine a scenario where God heals your broken marriage. Some of you can't imagine a scenario where your boss and you have a healthy relationship. Some of you can't ever see the possibility of a child coming back and you having a relationship with them again. And if it was left to the standards of the world, those things may not be possible. But when you add God into the equation, what was impossible now becomes a possibility. What used to be, oh, that will never happen, God says, watch what I can do. David didn't stand on the battlefield going, okay, if I'm lucky, if I throw this stone really hard, I might just maybe kind of win. He says, God, if you show up, you'll make all the difference. God, if you're in it, that's all the difference. I mean, that just tips the scales. Everything was against David. Every single thing. Every category you could find. And you just stack upon stack of things that Goliath had. And then all of a sudden, David goes, well, there's one more variable. I've got God on my side. And whoosh! The scales tipped. And in that moment, he said, oh, there's something new. We can't imagine God doing something new. We can't. We're so used to what we see. You're so used to the same problem every day, day in and day out. Some of you have struggled with the same sin, the same problem, the same headache, the same issue for so long that you cannot imagine a scenario where it's better. This is what it says in Isaiah 43, verse number 19. For I'm about to do something new. I'm going to do something new. See, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I'll make a pathway through the wilderness. I'll create rivers in the dry wasteland. We don't believe God would be new. We believe that, God, if you've allowed this to happen, my family has been broken for decades. It's never going to get better. God says, listen, I'm new every day. There's a paraphrase of Lamentations, the Message Bible, which is, it's kind of re-says it in different ways. This is a paraphrase of Lamentations 3, verses 22 through 24. It says, God's loyal love couldn't have run out. His merciful love couldn't have dried up. Why? They're created new every morning. Every morning, God's love, His mercy, His grace, it's new for us every morning. How great is your faithfulness? I'm sticking with God. I'm going to say it over and over. He's all I got left. Some of you should put that on an index card and put it in front of your face every morning. He's got something new for you every single morning, every single day. He can do something new in your life. You just have to believe that. For some of you, maybe it's some of you here, maybe it's somebody watching, you need to experience the newness first in your spiritual life before you can experience the newness in the practical, physical world around you. David already had a relationship with God before he stepped on the battlefield to kill a giant. Some of you want to kill giants, but you don't actually have God in your life. What you need is the newness to start here, and then watch that creep out into your relationships, into your family, into your friends, into your work, into your habits. And then God will begin to work through that newness. I'll leave you with this. 2 Corinthians is one of my favorite verses. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says that anyone who is in Christ Jesus, anybody who belongs to Christ, anybody who has put their faith in Jesus is the same old person they were before they had Jesus. No, that'd make that verse kind of sad, wouldn't it? What's it say? If you put your faith in Christ, then you get to be a new person. New. God's doing something new. He's doing something different. Let the newness start here. If you invite Jesus Christ into your life, what that means is stop trusting yourself. your plan isn't the best plan. Trust God. Trust Jesus Christ, the one who paid for all of your sin. He took all of your mistakes, all of your sin on him. Trust him, invite him in. Let him be in the driver's seat of your life. Let him call the shots for you. If you do that, the Bible says you're a new creature. Some of you have trusted Jesus Christ, but you haven't begun to live out that new creature. You haven't lived out that new life. If he's the driver, then you've got a new role. You're not driving. You're there now going, hey, who else can I tell about this? Where else can I see God at work? And that newness that you need, maybe the giants that you need to face, that's you going, God, I believe you can do something I can't do. In a second, we're going to sing a great song called I See a Victory. I want you to be able to sing that out loud. I want you to be able to say that every single day of your life. I want you to be able to declare this, but it has to start here first. It has to start with you having a new heart from the Savior, and then going, God, how would you use this new life, this new person, to affect new change in new areas? God, show me where I can live for you. Show me who I can love for you. Show me where I can give of myself. Everything you've given me is so that I can give it back. God, where would you use me? How would you have me affect somebody? I've got a limited amount of time on this earth. What would you do through me? God, use me. Then you become more like David and less like Goliath. This morning, you pick. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, we ask that you would help us. Lord God, help us to trust you the way David trusted you. God, so many of us are like Goliath. We trust ourselves. We trust the things we know. We trust the things we've accomplished. We trust the things we like. We trust the things that we feel comfortable with. And God, we don't ever end up actually trusting you. So I pray, Lord, over the people that are listening to me right now under the sound of my voice. God, would you help us know you? Would you help us see you? God, would you help us? Would you help us not be a Goliath, not be so stubborn and rely on the strength that we have, not be controlled by our emotions, not be driven by an ego, but God, would you help us put you first and know that you're the difference maker in all of this, in our homes, in our work, in our personal lives, in our struggles, in our victories. You're the one that makes the difference. And God, we want to see that difference. We need that difference. We need this world to be different. God, we're praying for our family and our friends, our parents and our children, our brothers and our sisters, our neighbors, our coworkers. God, help us see that difference. We lay this at your feet. Would you use us, each and every one of us, as we surrender to you? And God, maybe there's somebody right now for the first time surrendering their life. As we surrender to you, would you use us in a mighty and powerful way? We ask this and we pray this in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Hey everyone, thank you so much again for joining us and being a part of Harbor today. I'm Amy Jameson.
And I'm Brandon Jameson. We have a few things coming up that we want you guys to be a part of.
First up, this August, we are going to be doing some baptisms at the beach. If you're interested in getting baptized and taking that next step in your faith, or if you just want to know more about baptism, what it is, and why we do it, you can sign up at Harbor.Church.com.
Also, on August 12th, we're going to be having Harbor at the Beach.
Woot woot!
Going to have some bonfires, maybe roast some marshmallows, have some summer fun. So please, join us.
And last but not least, if you want to be with us in person at church next Sunday, please go to Harbor.Church.com and sign up for either the 9 a.m. or 10:30 service.
That's it for now. Thanks again for being a part of Harbor.